I'm Chris Farrell from the official GonnaGeek.com podcast, a proud member of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the show you're listening to now. The opinions expressed are those of each individual. Check out all the other geeky podcasts over at GonnaGeekNetwork.com and get ready, because geekiness begins in 3, 2, 1.
You are listening to the Starling Tribune, a podcast dedicated to the Arrow TV show.
This guy gets more airtime than the Kardashians, right?
This podcast is not produced or maintained by the CW, Warner Brothers Television, CTV, or DC Comics. All characters, situations, and stories are the properties of Time Warner. I am the Oracle, and this is your Tribune.
Welcome back to Earth 2's favorite newspaper, the Starling Tribune. And for the audio listener, I am holding up my 2 green drummer sticks that I use to drum the intro every week. I am the chief editor, SP, and your other reporters for this episode number 188 of the Starling Tribune are Chris.
Well, hot and sour is the best thing for healing, no matter what Earth you're from.
I like chicken noodle soup personally, but okay, we'll just go for it. They're on the West Coast. And Michelle.
Yeah, you definitely have that day from hell look.
I just took a shower before we started. And this week we have Neil again.
Does this look like justice?
Justice League, maybe? This podcast is recorded on Sunday, March 4th, 2018, live via geeks.live.
That's right, SP, and tonight we'll be discussing Arrow, as well as news, interviews, and announcements that have dropped in the last week that could, and very well will, impact future episodes of Arrow, as well as the slate of the greater DC TV universe, including shows like The Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, Vixen, Constantine, and potentially Black Lightning.
If you're new to the show, thank you for searching us out on the internet and joining us. After the show, you can check out our content at GonnaGeek.com, where you can also find other geeky videos, podcasts, and articles.
All right, thanks, guys. That was a great intro and telling everybody what we're all about here on the Starling Tribune. Michelle, why don't you go ahead and break down this episode for us?
This week's episode of Arrow is Collision Course. It is Season 6, Episode 14. It aired Thursday, March 1st, 2018. Directed by Ken Chang. He's a first assistant director turned director. He was the first assistant director on Arrow for 62 episodes, and he has directed 2 episodes of Arrow. Written by Oscar Balderrama, who's done 14 episodes of Arrow, and Rebecca Bellato, who was a writer's assistant for 13 episodes of Arrow and has written 4 episodes.
So we got some up-and-comers in control of the creative side of this episode. We're now going to talk a little bit of weekly ratings, as we do every week here on the Starling Tribune. And we're going to talk the last week of February into March, which is when these episodes aired. On Monday, the 26th of February, Legends of Tomorrow aired The Curse of the Earth Totem to a live rating of 1.51, which I think is about par for the course for Legends of Tomorrow. Hopefully it's rising up a little bit in that Supergirl time slot. On Tuesday, the 27th of February, Flash aired their episode Subject 9. By the way, these episodes are all post-Olympics 2018. So the episode was entitled Subject 9 to a live audience of 2.12, which is par for the course for Flash. Maybe a little on the low side, but still good. Following the Flash, Black Lightning aired their 6th episode of the first season entitled 3/7's The Book of Thunder to a live audience of 1.64, which, as you will note, is a little higher than Legends of Tomorrow on Monday. And then Thursday, the 1st of March, the episode of Arrow that we're going to be talking about in this podcast, titled Collision Course, aired to a live rating of, I feel a little bit like Top Gear here, 1.11 million viewers. That is the second lowest of the series, barring the Thanksgiving episode, which I said was going to be low anyway, but 1.11 in a week following the Olympics. Ouch.
Yeah, it's a bad sign. It's not a good sign at all.
No, not indeed. We're going to keep our eyes on this. We don't know this is going to be the last episode of Arrow or not. Although I heard an interesting statistics before today from our reporter, Michelle. She mentioned that the live viewing plus the app viewing and the DVRs and stuff after the fact, the Live Plus 7 added somewhere like 117% to the viewership of these CW shows.
Well, for Arrow, it adds usually another million. Basically, all the CW shows add at least a million. Flash adds a little bit more. Flash can add anywhere from 1 to 2 million more viewers, but Arrow is about another 1 million.
And I hate to belabor this point, but a lot of these views are with applications that you're actually watching with commercials. It's not off DVR, it's with the CW streaming app. So they are still getting ad revenue from these views. So it's not a bad thing. And the whole premise of any CW show is to get about 2 million views. So if you're getting just over 2 million with the live plus the 1 million after, that's not a bad, that's keeps you in the ballpark at least. So that's good. The only problem is you have an aging cast that, according to SAG rules, I guess, get more and more money per season the more they're on. So I don't know if there's contractual negotiations that can take place to keep it on for a 7th year. Nothing has been announced for a renewal for next season that I know of. Neil, have you heard anything?
No, I haven't heard anything yet, and it's a big question because I think they've wrapped for the year. They can't do any more pivots. They can't react to what's going on to try to strengthen the show. Everything's in the can at this point, so we have to wait and see how this season plays out.
We will indeed. So let's get back to this episode. Michelle, why don't you take us through the overall theme?
Well, it's called Collision Course, and no, it's not about drag racing or anything like that. It's basically OTA versus the Crybabies. Some people call them NTA for New Team Arrow, but if you break away from Team Arrow, you shouldn't have Arrow in your name. So therefore, I call them the Crybabies.
I do not dispute that at all.
Nope.
So that's the episode. OTA versus the Crybabies. And for a show that's known for its epic fights, and with a name like Collision Course and building this up team against team, we get one fight. And Neil, why don't you start the discussion about this one fight that we get?
Well, I drew parallels in this fight towards a video game. I broke the one fight that we had into 3 phases. We had OTA versus NTA, or the Crybabies, around the cabin when they first met up. And then after the explosion, it's kind of like you transition into the aggro phase of the fight where people were just making really bad decisions. You've got the shooting of Felicity, you've got Renee picking up an axe, and then you've got the boss fight over the prone Laurel at the end. It was at night, and it lost some of its impact, especially in some of the hand-to-hand. It wasn't lit very well. Now, you could argue that it was in the woods at night. It wasn't supposed to be bright, but I think they could have lit it a bit better for more impact. You had everybody making really bad decisions. I don't know about you guys, but yeah, I mentioned this before. Renee picking up an axe, like, come on, man. Like, it's Ollie. Your axes hurt, man. It's a big wedge-like blade. You've got people shooting at each other on the same team. I don't know. It left me with a bad taste in my mouth, and it wasn't dinner or, it was the show. Wasn't that thrilled about it. And, maybe it's me, but I am not a fan of the trope of heroes fighting heroes. I guess it's a trope for a reason. People do it. I'm not a fan.
I think
What
you
do you
have
guys
to
think?
build to it correctly, and I don't know that they've necessarily built to it correctly here, because it's shaky ground on why New Team Arrow would be so upset. Yes, Vince is dead, but he was also a criminal too and killed a bunch of people. I don't understand their motivation on a lot of stuff. Other than the fact we feel betrayed. Oh, and we want to help Dinah get vengeance, so we'll try and talk her down off killing, even though she seems she's going to kill Laurel. And you guys want to save Laurel, presumably because she's got the money to save the city, but really because you also think that she's still your Laurel for some reason. Even Ollie says something to that effect at the end. So everyone's on weird, unsteady ground for why this happens. And everything feels off balance that leads to this fight. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do on it.
I got two things for in response to Chris. First of all, this seemed to me like everything that Captain America Civil War did good, and they did it poorly. The buildup was poor. There wasn't a set reason that you could see each other fighting. Everybody's making poor decisions across the board. There's no really redemption for this fight. So it doesn't really feel like Captain America Civil War. And if you're talking a true civil war, it's got to be done throughout the entire DC CW TV universe, and it's not. It's just within Team Arrow. Now they can do it because they have such an expansive cast, really, but in the end, I mean, we're seeing Wild Dog. He's being removed from the situation, at least for now, so we're not going to even see him anymore. Okay, that was part one. Part two, everybody's trying to save the city, right? They're trying to get the money back to save the city, and for once it seems to be on everybody's mind. Maybe not the forefront, but it's a prime motivation for once. As I said before, there ain't too many people left in Star City. I couldn't imagine it being more than 10, 20,000 at this point, just because everything keeps happening and everybody's leaving. So yeah, they still need to save the city, but it's more like a town now than a city.
The only thing I would disagree with, just a part of that, SP, is where you said everybody's focused on saving the city. I would argue that if Dinah wasn't talked down out of killing Laurel at the end, she would have killed her and not questioned her about the money, and it would have been gone. And I think that's how they set that up. So, you know, they brought her back from that. They kind of reminded her that at the end. But I think it was everybody except for Dinah.
Well, they brought her back, but then they kind of pretty much just ruined Renee, going unhinged, basically, taking an axe out on Ollie, like you mentioned. In the chat room, pfruit0916 mentioned Renee could have killed Felicity or Thea because he blew up the car, and if Siren died, no chance to get the money. So they're all losing track of the goal because they get overwhelmed with the emotion of the moment. I mean, and arguably, you could say the one who was least overcome by their emotion in this case was Oliver, who's like, this is what we need to do. I need to shut you jokers down to be able to do it.
Just because being mayor is his day job, and I will completely disagree with you, Neil. I can't believe you went, yeah, that's actually what I meant, Neil, was that it was in the forefront of most people's minds, or it was at least a prime motivation. In her case, it wasn't the prime motivation, but she eventually got there, so I won't disagree.
Okay.
Yeah, we still need to save the city, because even though Caden James surrendered and is like, here, I'm going to give you all the money, someone went to Corto Maltese and got the money. Footage makes it seem like it's Black Siren, so everybody's like, okay, we need her to get the money to save the city because we're going broke. We have to close the schools and hospitals, and the federal government has abandoned us, so we're all on our own. And that's the premise. That's why they need to go find Laurel. Dinah wants to kill her, and that's the main reason why they start to fight. And
yeah, everybody just took it a bit too far as well. I mean, and I get why Dinah was smacking down Quentin with her steel bow stick, but I mean, she was going out on this guy, and he's not he's not a vigilante. And I know that Ollie had to take down Renee, but he's not gentle when he does it. He doesn't. I mean, this is when you pull out the boxing glove arrow. This is when you pull out a stun something, you know, the taser arrow. But you know, he went all out on him. I don't know. And again, it looks like these guys were using live rounds, stun rounds. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think we've seen the last of the, hey, you just shot somebody on your team. And I think that's the issue when you have supers that use guns as well. It's it's interesting. It's I think it's something they have to deal with.
And one of the people that we can't really talk about in the fight is Diggle. Oh, here we go. The crybabies need to find Laurel just like OTA needs to. Renee plants a bug on Oliver when OTA goes to the lair because they think they have Black Siren, and there's that whole confrontation there. And, well, the crybabies aren't really good at following, and Diggle, spots them, shakes their tail and everything like that, and they throw the bug out. And then they're like, we need to find them. How are we going to find them? And Curtis, SP, what does Curtis do?
Oh, Curtis goes after his Hoss, ex-leader, and decides to try to pick a fight with him in order to plant a bug on him. One thing that Oliver would never suspect, because everybody's making poor decisions and not thinking all the way through of whatever they're doing. In this particular case, I got to hand it to Wild Dog. He did a great thing. In this particular case, I got to say, Oliver, what are you doing when you take off your suit? You don't check the back of the coat as you're hanging it back up. You don't see that little black silver thing where it shouldn't be. Come on, Oliver. You need to know your own equipment. I would think at this point in time he would. Or maybe he sends it off to cleaning and the cleaning crew take care of it as his other backup suit comes in. You don't know how many suits these people really have. I mean, we speculated they get it dry cleaned at the one superhero dry cleaner before, but we don't know if they have two suits or not. Anyway, I think it was kind of a poor thing for Oliver not to notice, but good on Wild Dog for taking the initiative and doing something like that, because he played Oliver like a fiddle.
That was about the only smart thing in this episode that was done, was playing him like that to put that bug on. And I know we've mentioned this before. How do they have no protocol for bug sweeps or anything in the lair? They get bugged and hacked all the time. You would think, you see in all the spy movies and stuff, the little scanners to figure out if there's bugs there. I'm sure Cisco's made some variant of it that they should probably install in that lair, or at the very least, bug jammers. So even if you are bugged, no signal gets out. There's no good security here in the Arrow Cave.
That would do away with half the plot devices, though, if we got rid of bugs and trackers in the Arrow Cave. And, actually, even in Flash, remember that the Cyber Samurai's head was bugged for the first half of the season of Flash. So now Cisco's never good at it either.
That's true. So I want to go back to how Curtis found OTA, and what did Curtis do in order to actually, after the bug's destroyed, Chris, what did Curtis do to actually find OTA at the cabin?
He hemmed and hawed over how this was a tough decision to make, but then they totally just hacked the chip in Diggle's arm, basically disabling it and then using it to track and figure out where they are, and in essence temporarily crippling Dig again after they fixed it. And in the chat room, P-Fruit also brings up that using the chips crossing a line, if Dig hadn't been there, would they have disabled Felicity and paralyzed her? Same thing.
If you're truly in a active civil war with another team, as is obviously the case at the end of this episode, then this sort of thing is all is fair in love and war. This is war. So yeah, I think it's fair. Now, is it mean? Is it going to hurt? Yeah, but wars hurt.
But this was not the Civil War yet. This was still a disagreement, but they hadn't really come to blows with each other. It was Oliver and teams oh, these guys are tailing us, let's get rid of them, things like that to try and keep them out of it. There wasn't the whole head-to-head, let's fight. I mean, you could argue, and I don't necessarily think it's the right way to put it, but one could argue this whole fight was initiated by them taking Diggle out first, and that's what got tempers to flare.
I think it started when original Team Arrow went down into the Crybabies' lair. I mean, that definitely crossed the line again, and that brought everything on everybody. Now, you can say where this whole thing started, but when that happened, that escalated it to full combative mode for the crybabies, which then led to the chip being disabled. So, for them, for original Team Arrow, not to even think about that, well, that's on them. They should have made it hack proof.
Well, and that was SP. You nailed it. That was, I think, when things really started to escalate. Was when OTA they hacked New Teen Arrow's or the Cryberries bunker. They blew the power. They appeared on the stairs. They used a stun gas grenade or something to that effect so they could search it quickly. I was like, wow, this, and I just kept thinking this escalated quickly.
Yeah, because when they burst in, Curtis is like, no, we don't have Black Siren. And they're like, well, we don't, we're going to find out, and Curtis is like, what, our word isn't good enough anymore? And it's true.
No, it wasn't good enough from the beginning, from when they had to turn on each other. No, it's not, and it never will be again. I don't know how they're going to redeem themselves after this. I don't think there's going to be a Team Arrow with all these people on it anymore.
I'm not sure that's a bad thing.
No.
By the way, Neil, your misspeak Cryberries, that is totally what I'm calling their team from now on. It's not the Crybabies.
Nice.
It's the Cryberries. Yeah.
Well, I think, to be fair, splitting up these guys, you're past the point of no return, and I think that some of the decisions made between them makes them irredeemable in each other's eyes, so you can't put them back together. I mean, Wild Dog especially, he's always been reckless, but one could argue he pushed the line most of all, and now we're left to wonder what's going to happen to him at the end of the episode. So maybe they're starting to gradually take people off the board for a while.
Yeah, one of the things that kept coming up in this episode is who started it. And it comes back to Renee being the traitor. And I've said this, I don't know how many times, everybody should be angry at Renee. And then Curtis and Dinah should be angry at OTA for the whole spying thing. But then, I feel like this is high school or middle school. Who did this first, round and around and around? Has it come to a point where these two teams cannot get back together? Are we there?
Yes.
Yep. I would only argue that Mr. Terrific still has a way back in, because I don't think he hasn't personally crossed a line. I think Dinah has crossed the line. I think Renee has crossed the line, but I don't think Curtis has. Now, maybe him hacking Diggle's wrist chip was his line, but it doesn't feel the same as the others.
I think the combination of him hacking the wrist chip and his statements in the hospital totally make him ineligible as they go forward.
Yeah, I live tweet this. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, this is just so ridiculous. How come they can't get along? This is so dull. This is blah and blah. When Curtis hacked Diggle's arm, 80% of the feed was like, those three can now burn in a fire because he hurt Diggle. Because, I mean, it's Diggle, for crying out loud. It's Dig. He's like the heart and soul. He's been trying to keep everybody together. He's been trying to be a voice of reason every once in a while.
He was in on the hacking, the tracking, and he obviously in this episode was in on the invasion of the Cryberries' lair. So yeah, he's not totally innocent.
But in the grand scheme of things, he's Diggle. He's a special character to a majority of fans. A lot of fans actually adore him a little bit more than Felicity and even Oliver. Neil, do you understand what I mean with the whole Diggle status?
I get it. Yeah, I think Terrific has a way back in. I think Curtis could still come back to the team because he could flip the switch and he could literally apologize for it. I mean, there was nothing permanent that was done there, right? It was a temporary disablement of Dig's arm, whereas I think Canary crossed the line significantly. I think Renee, shooting Felicity, shooting the car. I'm surprised that Ollie didn't put a broadhead through his chest after he shot his fiance, love of his life. I was like, you could have just pushed Ollie a bit too far. But at the end of the day, I think this comes back to command and control. And I was thinking about this. Most comic book superhero teams have a clear, either a chain of command, so like a Professor X followed by a Cyclops or a Storm in the field, a chain of command that's kind of followed and people are following who they do it. We even saw that on Legends Tomorrow, that when you have no, chain of command, no command and control structure, things go off the rails. And I think Ollie has kind of lost that a bit recently, which is why we've got this, chaos has ensued. Now he's made some bad calls, but I think that's just compounded the issue.
So first of all, Neil, I think you've been gone from this podcast for a while, so I'll give you a little a pass. It's not a fiance; they're married now. Did you miss that?
Oh, that's right. No, at the end of Flash. My bad.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I just wanted to make sure before we had our fans yelling at us.
No, it's on again, off again. It happened so quickly at the end of Crisis on Earth X. I blocked it out.
She got shot this week and was fine in the next scene, and Renee, who got shot weeks ago, is now critically wounded.
Because he got kicked in the chest and it reopened the wound.
Convenient.
Do we want them to be back together, or would we be okay with some of these characters leaving? Chris?
I liked Dinah at one point in time. She was one of my favorite characters. Then they unhinged her with this whole Vince thing. So honestly, I couldn't care less. I could take her or leave her at this point. I don't know how you put her back on that team and rebuild like the camaraderie she had with Dig and things like that. Renee, I think, is completely unhinged at this point in time. They've kind of ruined the character by making him just be a nut job. And Curtis, I guess you could bring him back. I don't care one way or another. If they do, that's fine. If they don't, that's fine too.
They season 2 Laureled this season with Dinah. She definitely took a turn. People might argue that Laurel wasn't that endearing of a character in season 1 or not, but in season 2, when she became a drunk, basically, a lot of people did not like her and where the writers took that character at all. So that's what they've done with Dinah this season, and it's really tough to take because she was a really strong character, and then I guess the writers and the producers are thinking that we can sympathize with her because of what's happened to her, but at the same time, I think she's better than that. So as far as Curtis, the only way he could be redeemed is the whole daughter thing. We haven't seen the daughter in a while. So, I mean, that could pull some heartstrings and bring him back. Curtis, I'm not, that's a tough one. Curtis is a tough one, whether I'd want him back or not. Because right now, I'd say no, but maybe I could convince otherwise. And week to week, we have no idea what the writers have in store, the production team has in store for the rest of the season here. We still have a significant amount of episodes left. We're only at episode 14, so there's a few months of episodes left here. So we'll see where it ends, but right now I'd say no.
I feel like they're already being phased out some. When's the last time you talked about something that anyone in this show did outside their superhero life?
Well, Dinah with the police.
You get a little bit of that, but we haven't talked about Renee's daughter in weeks and the fact that he's trying to get her back. Curtis, we get a little jab this week about his love life. That's about it. Paul's out of the picture. They wrote him out. So, I mean, really all we've got out of these folks is they're superheroes now. So when they're not, it's easy to get rid of them because there's not much else for them to do there.
As I stated before, I don't think there's any sort of real life left in Star City. I think it's all people just going through the motions that are left. And like I said, I don't think it's more than 20,000 people left around there. So while, yes, the government being partially shut down from time to time, it's not only a statement on what's going on this year in the U.S. Congress, but it's also a reality of what's happening in Star City that I don't know if it's going to matter all that much in the end. I mean, the emergency services are probably the big thing. And of course, the window repair companies, well, they're all based on insurance claims. So, I guess they'll still operate, but that's not a government entity anyway.
Neil, do you want any of them back?
You know what? I'm good. I'm good. The only thing I'm going to be sad about is that we're going to lose the new tech startup between Curtis and Felicity. I thought that would have been fun, but at the end of the day, you know what? I've said it before. We need to strip down the number of characters and focus on the core characters on Team Arrow. And, while I'm okay with the team getting a bit narrowed, my TV season sense is tingling and saying that there will need to be some kind of coming together to defeat the big bad at the end of the season. And they're going to realize they all need each other, and it's going to be disappointing. And I hope they don't go down that way.
I'm just hoping there's no little trope about, oh, we were being mind controlled, or someone was feeding us something that made us more paranoid that exacerbated this situation. Because if there's one way to make it the stupid worse, it's to be like, oh, we wrote ourselves an explanation so we can magically cure the fact that you all have come to hate some of these characters in this time. Because that doesn't fix it.
Neil, I got a question to ask you. I'm jumping the gun a lot on this, but next week, if you've read or seen the previews, we get Roy back, and we've been talking about that for a while. So after next week, do you think we'll have Thea and Roy around? Probably not Roy, but do you think we'll have Thea around?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's going to bode well getting her back in the Speedy suit. I think there is a reason that she tried to leave that life behind her. We'll see, would I like to have her back? Yeah, I think so. I think Will Holland's been fun, but I don't think she's back to stay.
Okay.
Yeah, the one I'm really disappointed in is Dinah. I thought she was a very intriguing character. She grew on me. I really liked her at the beginning of the season, the way she was interacting with Diggle, showing that men and women can work together, be equals, and don't have to worry about romantic stuff. So that's the one I'm really disappointed in. Renee, I'd take him or leave him. I mean, he's just a guy in armor with guns. That's basically, he's just vigilante, but on Team Arrow side, and a lot of less killing. If this means giving Diggle more screen time and having him be the focus of a lot more scenes than he has been, then yeah, these three leaving, that would be amazing, because I do miss a lot of the OTA together. And hey, there's Lila. We haven't seen Lila in weeks. She's somewhere out there with Junior. So we haven't seen them yet. So if they go away, I'm not going to cry.
I think P. Fruit in the chat room nailed it. Biggest issue with the newbies is they could easily forgive Vince for trying to murder them countless times, but they can't forgive OTA for bugging them. The lack of trust they have with their supposed teammates is not forgivable, but a dude who tries to kill you multiple times that one of your teammates is in love with, that's okay. We can get past that.
I was a little bit perplexed about Oliver's ability to basically pardon Laurel. That shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, we've been saying that all season, though. The stupid is strong in many things here, especially when it's come to Laurel all year round, and you have no idea how frustrating it is at the end of this to be like, oh, they're still going after this redemption arc that I don't think is possible.
Yes, that does bring us to Black Siren. The big point here is Quentin took her to a cabin, and I love the scene in the mayor's office where Thea is looking at Quentin, and right away she's like, this man is lying. She is lying. And she finds out he's been nursing Black Siren back to health and all this type of stuff.
Hey, I just have to interject. That was a little creepy when the camera panned over and it was Theo watching in the window like a horror flick. I was like, oh my gosh, Willow.
It was the
I
cabin
know.
in the woods.
I know that was kind of creepy and funny. So let's talk about this. This whole idea. One of the things we've been talking about on this podcast is, first of all, I don't blame Quentin at all. This man has been through hell. Okay. One daughter alive, thinking one daughter's dead. Sarah's alive, then dead, then alive, then dead, then alive, then a time traveler. And then Laurel being Laurel, then Canary, and then dead. And then now there's a doppelganger. I'm surprised he's still sane enough to form complete sentences.
Yeah, no joke.
And that he's not a complete alcoholic again. Like, wow.
So I was catching up with Legends of Tomorrow, which I'm not totally caught up with Legends of Tomorrow yet, but I was catching up with Legends of Tomorrow over the weekend. And I was thinking to myself, when's the last time Sarah's been home to talk to Quentin? I mean, this should be a more regular occurrence for her, especially since she's on a time ship with a jump ship. She could go home whenever she wanted to whatever time she wanted to. So a little confused why she doesn't go back to Quentin. And even if it's off screen and they just mention it, I think that connection should be there more. But because Sarah's not around, he's gone over the deep end with Black Siren right now. And I just feel for him.
Do we think that Sarah would have been convinced by this whole Black Siren from an alternate Earth can be like our Laurel kind of garbage?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah, that's probably why they haven't called her. It's almost like the Wally West situation on Flash. It's like everybody, for some reason, forgot Wally was around, which irritated every single Flash fan. And over here, we're like, how come somebody just didn't like text Sarah and like, hey, can you take 10 minutes and come here and talk to your dad? Because, oh, by the way, there's Earth 2 Laurel. Maybe you can help out with that. But no. Nope.
And you got to wonder, what if instead of being an Earth 2 Laurel, this had been like an Earth X Laurel, right? If it had been the super bad Nazi Laurel, would Quentin still be like, whoa, still my daughter?
Yeah, probably not.
I don't know. He's kind of lost it. He might have, well, she's a Nazi, but she's probably still my daughter deep down inside.
I mean,
Oh, that would be tough
Like
to be a parent of a Nazi. Oh,
Yeah. Like I said, I forgive Quentin. Like for me, it's like, dude, I get it. But
Yeah.
this whole what the writer's doing. First off, if the plan had worked, because the plan was to give Laurel a new identity, Quentin was going to go with her, and she was then going to say, hey, here's where the money is. If the Cryberries hadn't interfered, do we think this plan would have worked? Do we think she was telling the truth at all?
Quentin would have ended up dead. Just like Oliver said, she'd be dead. He'd be dead.
So what? She didn't have the money at all? Like it was a big old lie?
I think
The
she's
money-
turned the money over to the dragon already. I don't think she had the money to begin with.
Yeah, and it's probably electronic at this point. She could have just wired it, done a transfer. She's probably not kept it as a big briefcase of money somewhere in the world.
that's true. I didn't think about that.
I'll take him to it, which by it, I mean a computer or a tablet somewhere where I can, transfer it back. Well, she wasn't going to go somewhere, get the money, then bring it back to Star City. She was going to wire it or transfer it back to the city.
Especially when she was trying to connect with Quentin. I knew what was happening the whole time. She said, tell me about Laurel. You knew what she was doing. She was going to use that information to her advantage and then turn into Laurel here on Earth 1, and which happens at the end. So you knew what was happening. You knew it was coming. but you had hoped that she would get out and never see her again. But that's not going to happen because she's going to be there for the rest of the season. Okay, so we're going to get fake Laurel here for a couple episodes.
P. Fruit disagrees. He thinks that Quentin would have survived. Or they, rather. Sorry. Made an assumption.
Yeah, because Siren does say, thank you for fighting for me. We have to look at her pattern. She served Zoom because Zoom could have killed her. She gets caught by Team Flash. Prometheus rescues her, so she's loyal to him. She gets shot on Lian Yu, is rescued by Caden James, is loyal to Caden James. Now she feels as though Oliver and Quentin were trying to give her a life. And considering her pattern in that way, do we think that when she becomes publicly Laurel Lance, do we think she's actually still going to kind of be loyal to Oliver, or who do you think she's going to blame for kidnapping her? Because that's the story that I think she's going to try to spin. I've been kidnapped, even though people thought I was dead, but I was kidnapped and now I'm alive. How do you think she's going to spin that?
Felicity kidnapped me. She held me against my will for years. She's secretly a dominatrix.
No, I don't know what route they're going to go with it. They could just make it be Caden James had me kidnapped, could be the convenient excuse. And with Caden gone, that allows her to operate in the clear. The real interesting question there is when Sarah Lance finds out that supposedly Laurel Lance is back in Star City, what happens?
Neil?
Yeah, I don't know. I hadn't even thought about who she's going to claim kidnapped her, but if they continue down this trend, it's not going to be good.
No.
She's going to throw somebody under the bus.
Most certainly.
Because I think this is how they're going to start her on the redemption arc.
I still don't buy how you redeem someone who's been a criminal forever, has killed mercilessly, and all of these other things. But because we so hard want to believe, just like Oliver said, that she's our Laurel, they're going to believe it. No, she's a bad person. She's tried to kill you all. There's no redeeming her. She's evil from another Earth. I don't get it.
I know who kidnapped her. Elena and Ragman. They're the ones who kidnapped her.
Yeah, and Artemis. Nobody talks about Artemis. She must be dead.
Haven't seen a body, but I hope she's dead. There's another traitor for you. She can join the Cryberries.
Now, SP, do you think the writers are going to try to redeem Black Siren?
Oh yeah. I mean, the whole point of bringing Laurel back as Black Siren was ultimately in their mind to redeem, because she was such a beloved, polarizing character, but there was a certain fan base of Arrow that wanted her back, that thought the death was unjustified, that sort of thing. She should still be on the show. And I think that has been the plan all along, because remember, they get together and they game plan in the summer in the writer's room where they want to be at the end of the year, and then they drive towards it. And I think this is one of the drives that they've been doing all year long, is trying to get that redemption arc or using it as a plot device. But you can't use it as a plot device even if there is not hints of it actually going to happen. And they could have we don't know which way it's going to go. We're going to judge where the fan base is, and at the end of the year, we'll make our decision. So it's possible, but we'll see.
Yeah, Neil, you came across an article about Black Siren being redeemed. So would you talk about that a little bit, and then we'll talk about into other characters being redeemed?
Yeah, there was a comicbook.com article this week where it said, why Black Siren can still be redeemed and why this is a good thing. And I read it, and I had to tweet back to comicbook.com. I'm like, seriously, guys? No, she has been outright murdering people, killing them point blank. And I got to tell you, the Laurel Brigade responded to me. Wow.
You mean Chris's fan base?
Yeah, the hashtag redemption for Laurel people. And the crux of the article was that, well, Ollie's killed people and he's been redeemed. Diggle, when he was serving in Afghanistan, killed lots of people. He's been redeemed. Felicity nuked Haven Rock. And now we're stretching. But she's been redeemed. So, of course, we can redeem Black Siren. Why is Vince's death any different? And I would argue it's totally different.
This is a cold-blooded act of murder.
Yeah. And even in that episode, we saw a trail of bodies leading to the room where it happened. She has been outright killing people the entire season, ever since we saw her in the first Flash episode from Earth 2. She was taking out buildings. She was flattening buildings in Central City.
Yeah, and she's not discriminating between bad guys and good guys, anything like that. She's killing anyone.
So would you rather Helena be redeemed completely or Laurel be redeemed completely?
Hey, she went to jail. So technically going to jail is paying your debt to society. And that is paying a consequence. And that is something that none of these others have had to go through. So Huntress got arrested, is in prison, paying her debt to society. When she comes out, then yes, because she's paid that debt. None of these. So Felicity that was all Damien Dark. Damien Dark tried to nuke everything. So Felicity, took that nuke to a smaller town. That really wasn't on her. But if you think about it, Vince, they gave Vince a redemption arc, right? So Vigilante was an outright killer. They made him Canary's ex-boyfriend. He ended up being a traitor to James, died on the side of, the good guys. Caden James, I'm going to destroy the entire city. All of a sudden sees Oliver with William and it's like, oh my gosh, I should have been a better father. I'm going to surrender and I'm going to now do the good thing. That's almost being redeemed. Even Slade. We love Deathstroke.
Who we will never see again.
Because he drove a sword through Ollie and Thea's mom. And this is the hardest redemption of all the ones we've seen for me to actually buy. But you could argue it was all Mirakuru based.
He was literally out of his mind because of the Mirakuru. And the Slade episodes this season did a pretty good job of kind of explaining just how unhinged he became on all that. Doesn't make it right. No, it makes it a little more understandable to figure out how you could have done that. And the comparison here is Black Siren kills. She likes to kill. It's not because her mind is twisted or she's on drugs or she's trying to do the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. When Felicity had to make a snap decision to stop Damien Dark's nukes, she consciously kills people and seems to like it. How do you redeem someone from that who is a cold-blooded killer who likes doing it?
Get amnesia?
Get amnesia and literally transplant Earth 1 Laurel's brain into her head or something like that. I have no idea, and I'm half expecting some stupid MacGuffin like this to happen.
So are we all agreed then? Hashtag no redemption for Laurel?
No redemption for Black Siren. That Laurel, yes. If you want to say redeem Earth 1 Laurel, if you brought her back somehow and redeem the character, potentially. But Black Siren's irredeemable. I'd have never bought on this redemption arc that they've started throwing out there since the beginning of the season.
This is what gets me. Miracle and Guggenheim over the summer came up with this plan. And, television is a writer's medium. They are the two in charge. The actors are doing a great job with what they're given. The directors are doing a good job with what they're given. But I really think they're actually going to make Black Siren live out regular Laurel's life and try to have her see the society as great. And there she's with Quentin, and all of a sudden she gets redeemed because I don't know why it seems like Guggenheim and Miracle are making this Arrow colon everyone gets a redemption arc.
I think the writers need to stop going to the internet and listening to the fans. Like George R. Martin doesn't care what the fans are saying. He's just doing his thing. And I think the Game of Thrones writers are the same way. They're just going to write a good show and let the fan base respond. But unfortunately, I get the feeling that sometimes the Arrow writers room is swayed by what's going on, on the internet. And that's not how you should write your show.
Twitter and Tumblr. That's the two things they seem to pay attention to a lot. Because look at how the show has changed over the years. Olicity, all because of Twitter and Tumblr to begin with. There was great chemistry between them, but then the shippers started things off. They're very heavily influenced by what is popular on social media in that regard. So if your opinion is something that doesn't jive with social media, it's not going to matter as much because you're not the vocal part of the fan base. There's some people that absolutely love the direction this show is taken right now. And I kind of sit there and scratch my head and go, does anyone remember when Arrow was a show about wasting supervillains, wasting villains, and trying to save a corrupt city?
Well, he has failed the city.
In his own words, that is true. I mean, but the show has evolved a lot. When this first started showing, we were like, this is a CW show? This is awesome. It's not at all what we expected. And then you get to about the season 3.5 on mark, and we've kind of had that gradual evolution of things. That's not necessarily bad, but it seems like the reasons why folks like myself fell in love with the show have become a less and lesser part of the show as we've progressed.
So do any of us think Black Siren can be redeemed?
Hell no.
Nope.
Already said
How
no.
many of us think the writers are going to force a redemption arc on her and on us?
Yes.
Yep.
Chris, do you think the writers are going to do?
I thought they were going to force a redemption arc on us since the season began. So yes, and I'm sure people will love it because, much like Oliver said, the people on the show, on the team, can't view her differently than Earth One Laurel. Neither can the fans, because they're still so angry about the fact that Laurel was killed off that they want to see Black Siren take that role and are willing to forget the fact that, she's a cold-blooded murderer who's tried to kill lots of people in addition to destroying Central City from an alternative Earth.
All right. So any last thoughts about this episode? SP?
It's the Civil War, and I don't like it. It's not enticing to me, but it's a civil war, and it's happening. Get ready for it. It's already here, but get ready for it. We're going to see more of it.
Chris, any last thoughts?
I'm so frustrated they ruined two of the characters I really liked when they brought them in. I don't know how to bring them back, so it's just frustrating.
Neil?
I just hope we move on quickly, get back to a thinned down primary cast, and let's just put this all behind us.
Wait, are you saying the cast has gained too much weight? Is that what you mean by saying thin down?
No.
For what it's worth, I think the actors are doing a tremendous job with the material that they're given.
Yep.
Yes.
Definitely. I don't think that the show has any blame on the actors for this. They're doing what they're told. They're acting the scripts that they're given. I just wish they had different scripts.
And I hope P. Fruit is wrong, who says they feel like Quentin's going to die to push the Siren redemption. I hope not. We've all said Quentin's going to die forever and ever. I don't want this to be what he dies for.
True. Well, we are upset at certain characters. One character we are not upset with, and that is Roy Harper. And next episode is called Doppelganger. It's season 6, episode 15. It will air Thursday, March 8, 2018. Roy Harper returns to Star City, and Oliver and Thea take action to save him when they discover the reason why he's come back. It's directed by Kristen Wendell. Writers, Speedweed did the teleplay. Story by Christos Engage and Ruth Fletcher.
Speedweed! I let you get through it before I said it this time. Looking forward to it with Roy Harper. And by the way, Thea is going to get back in her suit because she goes, "Well, my super suit" in the promo. Well, she doesn't say that, but she's like, "Where's my suit?" So looking forward to that. And with that, we're going to get on to the news. Live from the Starling Tribune main news desk on 452 of Starling Tribune Tower, it's the weekly news roundup with Chief News Anchor Michelle Ely. Michelle, take it away.
Well, I have some Constantine news because everyone knows that if John Constantine comes up, I have to talk about it. The animated series finally gets a premiere date. The Constantine animated series for CW Seed will begin streaming on March 24th. So finally, I've been looking forward to this for over a year, and we finally have a date. I'm not the only one who loves Constantine. Neil, you have a bit of news for us?
That's right, Michelle. And yeah, sticking with the theme, John Constantine is now officially confirmed for the Legends of Tomorrow finale. Not only are we going to get John Constantine in Necromancing the Stone, but rumors stemming from an Instagram photo posted by Nick Zano have been circulating for weeks that Ryan's going to join the finale. But we're also now with this official comment confirming that Franz Drame, or Jax, is coming back, and Jonathan Shalich as Jonah Hex. So it is going to be one heck of an episode.
Legends has been killing it.
I can't wait to get caught up. I'm 2.5 episodes behind, so I'm really looking forward to it. I'm in the middle of the Constantine episode right now, the first one with Captain Cold from Earth X, or is it Captain Cold? Yeah, it's Captain Cold from Earth X.
Citizen Cold.
Citizen. There you go. From Earth X, and just really enjoying it. It's a fun series to watch. And if you want to talk about other fun podcasts to listen to, we got a bunch of them over on the GonnaGeek.com network, don't we, Chris?
That's the truth, SP. There's 25 plus shows in the network, and we can't very well come on each week and be like, hey, check out all 25 of these shows, because that would be crazy. But what we can do is say, hey, there's a ton of shows, and each week we want to try and highlight one specific show and say, hey, you should check this one out. So this week, we're going to talk to you guys about the Intellectual Podcast Oscar Predictions Part 1. Yes, the Oscars are on tonight, but you can go and hear the Intellectual Podcast predictions. Join the Intellectual Podcast for the first part of their annual Oscar predictions. It's always an educational and rowdy time as David sits with his filmmaking friends to passionately debate the year's hottest films. So guys, if you've got Oscar fever like a good segment of the internet seems to right now, go check out the Intellectual Podcast at GonnaGeekNetwork.com, and you too can find out about their Oscar predictions. But I think that is going to start wrapping us up. A big thank you to everyone who did participate live in the chat over at Geeks.live today. We had a pretty active chat room today, so thanks for that, guys. And also thank you to everyone who downloads the episodes at StarlingTribune.com or catches the replays over at YouTube.com/GonnaGeek.
And remember, you can always catch us live as we record at www.geeks.live at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific on Sundays.
We would love to hear from you. We are the Starling Tribune on Facebook and Instagram, at Starling Tribune on Twitter, and you can call us at 612-888-CAVE. That's 612-888-2283. Well, this brings us to the close of another great episode. Any last words before we sign off? At Stargate Pioneer.
Hashtag Arrow Civil War.
At the Chris Farrell.
Hashtag Too Much Stupid.
At Neil Is It Witty.
Hashtag This Escalated Quickly.
And I am at Michelle Ely, signing off with hashtag Someone Call Sarah. Oracle, I think we're done here.
This was the Starling Tribune. You can leave us feedback at GonnaGeek.com or check out our archive at StarlingTribune.com. Visit GonnaGeek.com for more podcasts. Music by Kevin MacLeod can be found at Incompetech.com. This podcast is not produced or maintained by the CW, Warner Brothers Television, CTV, or DC Comics. All characters, stories, and situations are the property of Time Warner. No infringement is intended. We will see you for the next episode of CW's Arrow.